It was a 3-pack of white jockey panties that went up to the middle of my belly button. I bought them at Macy's using my mother's coupons because in my mind, I would look like a sexy, skinny lady in a movie walking around in high-waisted briefs. 100% cotton, because that's what you wear to prevent reoccurring yeast infections. I was watching Judge Judy folding my mother's laundry and mine when, without looking, I picked up a pair from the clean pile, laid it on my knee. The fabric felt awfully soft. They were discolored. They had been washed before. I bought used panties from Macy's. Ah, but these were my mother's panties. We now own the same panties, and that was the moment I understood that I was turning into my mother whether I liked it or not. When I moved to Israel on my own, I was no longer the funny one. I was out of the friend zone. I was dateable, desirable, and was finally having relationships. And though I was secretive in my youth, I felt the need to share with my mother. Now he's my boyfriend. Well, not anymore. He broke up with me, but now he wants to get back with me. What do you think I should do? My mother's answer was usually the same. She would say, I don't know. I mean, she would tell me about a couple where the smart woman took her loser boyfriend back, and now he's still a loser, but they're happy. And then there's the other friend who regrets that she never had any children. But the bottom line was always, I can't tell you what to do. I don't know. And that's one of the things I love most about my mom. Whether it was on purpose or not, it forced me to make my own choices. I still can't wrap my head around it, that you're my daughter, that I have a daughter, that I thought this was a good idea. I've heard people say that the moment they give birth to their child was the happiest day of their lives. I don't say that shit. I mean, it was a crazy day. After I pushed you out, which felt like taking the biggest shit of my life, I was exhausted and bloody and had a hemorrhoid the size of a small egg, and I prayed that one day soon I would be able to hold in my pee again. But wow, what an experience. You were precious and cone-headed and so cute. Your father ordered takeout to the hospital room, and while I finally enjoyed steak that was red and bloody in the middle, we watched you sleep in that fish tank on wheels. I don't mind if you want to be a vegetarian, but if you want to indulge with me in the animalistic pleasure of eating dead cow, order your steak medium rare. The first steak I ever had was in the bungalow colony, upstate New York. My stepbrother threw a few slabs on the grill, cooking them brown all the way through, then drenched each bite in barbecue sauce. I love barbecue sauce, so I ate mine the same way, and I realized I guess I like steak. But the steak that taught me the right way to eat a steak was when a small guy named Momo from South Africa asked if I wanted to go out and if I liked steak. Yes and yes. He picked me up in his own car, and I thought maybe this was the guy for me. He's got a foreign accent and a salary. What else could I need? We pulled up to his place, and I said, I thought we were going for steak. I'm gonna make you one, he said, and I followed the stranger into his apartment all because he promised me meat that I didn't have to pay for. Momo put the steak in the pan with only salt and pepper and asked how I liked it. I was never asked how I liked my steak. I didn't know how to answer. He offered to put it back in the pan if it was too bloody. Then he sat across from me and watched me eat. This was his last steak that he brought from South Africa when he went to visit his family. Apparently he already ate, but I should enjoy. Suspicious. Yet I ate the whole thing, and I'll never forget it because it was the best steak of my life. It was juicy, and there was no need for any barbecue sauce. The rest of the night wasn't that eventful. We sat on his couch, he turned off all the lights, put on a movie, and I rolled into a ball, hugging my knees like in the case of an emergency landing. He asked me a few times if I was okay, and after a long time of me not responding at all, I darted out of his apartment barefoot and shouted, "Thanks for dinner, let's do this again." Years later, I went out with Matan, who never cooked, but loved eating out and always paid for me without any issues. He was very generous in that way. He wore tattered t-shirts, but he didn't look at the prices when scanning the menu. And not that there's anything wrong with eating your meat dry and tasteless, but on our second date, when he ordered his steak well done, I wish I had been paying attention. Because in the case of Matan, it was an expression of someone with money and brains that when given opportunities to have the finer things in life, like me as his girlfriend, he had to somehow ruin it. I don't know if he was fucked up or if it was the combination of me plus him, but he was bad news bears. He was jealous, he refused to introduce me to his friends, and there was that time that he had sex with me when I was sleeping. I struggled to push him off of me for, it's not funny, for what felt like a long time, and in the morning we discussed whether it's considered rape or not if he's my boyfriend. Ha ha ha, right? Yet in a way, I'm grateful to him because he led me to your father. I saw your father on a film set, schlepping the camera, shoving a ladder into a van, and I thought, this is a, sorry. This is how you win. Give me one more minute, okay? Schlepping the camera and shoving a ladder into a van, and I thought, this is a man I'd like to spend a night with. We dated for 2 months before I dumped him because he was nice to me and he respected me. Like when I offered to blow him and he said we could wait until my yeast infection was over so that we could both enjoy Ichsa. It was on Easter Chag after Sukkot when he took me to the Ben Shemen forest. Well, I drove, but it was his idea to sit in nature and cook food over an open fire. I built the fire too. He brought potatoes, mushrooms, onions, tomatoes, hot peppers, and 2 big fatty steaks from the overpriced butchers on Shankin. And as I was getting the fire going, he asked me to marry him. The first thought in my head was, nah. But I knew that this was my idea, so I said, are you sure? And I think eventually I said yes. He came around the fire so that his arm wouldn't burn off. I put on the ring and we sat next to each other, just the 2 of us, surrounded by trees, and it was one of the most awkward moments of my life. We were now engaged, whatever that meant, and we were hungry, and we had nothing to say to one another. So I said, we'll be together forever, and he responded, there's no such thing as forever. At that point, we thought it was a good idea to make the food. We ate, and then we got excited, and I called everyone I knew to tell them the good news, and I felt high for 2 weeks. I have no memory of how the momentous steak tasted. In your first few weeks of life, I asked myself if I would be upset if you were to die. I barely knew you. But now, even though you're only 4 months old, I think about my own death, and then I want to make sure to give you some motherly advice. Invest in expensive face cream. The cheap ones don't work. And when in doubt, don't do it. Like blackface, don't do it. And don't use the word lynch like Israelis do. Lynching is what they did to black people in the South. You're Israeli, but you had an American passport first. Sometimes it's okay to have sex with someone you love, even if you aren't in the mood. Try to have your last words be, I love you. Eat before you make a big decision. Or don't. Actually, you know what? I don't know.